Hello and welcome to the fourth tutorial of Tornado Alice. Actually, we've been calling this a tutorial, but I think this is more like a journal because we don't provide enough information to call it a tutorial. Anyway, today I'm going to discuss more about keyboard flying. So basically what we know is that when you are using an analog controller, the value that you are setting is actually around 1100 to 1900. And if you take the average as a center point, it's around 1500. So these are critical values for us to program if we want to actually fly by keyboard, because we are able to send these different values into the NASA flight controller and then control the motors from there. So for example, maybe for digital control, instead of having the full range like the analog over here, we might want to narrow down the range to maybe, as with 1500 as the equilibrium, we just go a bit lower, like 1400, and a bit above 1600. The reason being is because when you are controlling on a keyboard instead of a controller, you tend to be less aware of how the flying machine is behaving. That's why you want the movement to be kept to the minimum so that it will not actually make very sudden and jerky movement, and then you might crash your flying machine. So what we need is to actually program a minimum of 16 keys, because for the flight controller you have 8 keys that you will need, and for the trimming, which is the adjustment part for the flight controllers, you have 8 more keys. So a total of 16 primary controls are needed. And we have actually come up with 2 variations of how the keyboard should be programmed. And the first one is what I call gamer's intuition, because if you play games like first-person shooting games like Counter-Strike, you'll be more familiar with this. So the primary control is actually WSAD, where you'll be able to control forward movement and side movement. So for the W and the S is actually the pitch movement, where you pitch forward or you pitch backward. And A and D is actually your yaw, where you just do a normal turn to the left or to the right. And over here you can see the arrow signs is the other 2 control throttles. Then up down is the throttle up and down, and left and right you have the roll function, roll left and roll right. And of course you have the trimming, which is being done on the number pad. Trimming is considerably less significant, but it's also very important. So it's actually at the side and is governed by these 4 groups of numbers on the number pad. And yeah. And what I feel that is that we actually need to label this if we were to fly on the keyboard, because they are very close to each other and we might get confused if we want to do a trimming. And this is also what we propose, because if you play games like Counter-Strike, you'll be familiar with the Q button where you do a quick switch. So maybe on our GUI we can actually do something like this, where you show the roll, pitch and yaw and throttle. And you have a selection cursor, and through this selection cursor, when you press your Q, you'll be able to select another part of the controls to trim. And maybe our GUI will look like this. And the second variation is actually what I call the hobbyist intuition. And this is actually based on this guy over here. Because some of the hobbyists, some expert flyers, they are more familiar with the controls of a regular controller. And what we are trying to do here is actually to translate the conventional controller over to the keyboard, where we try to keep things as similar as possible. So for example, you can see on this controller we have 2 flight controllers on the left, 2 on the right, and these little buttons here are actually the trim buttons. So what we did over here is that we have WSAD on the left, and another group of flight controls over here, 8, 5, 4 and 6, and over here 8, 5, 4 and 6 on the numpad on the right, and the trim likewise will be in the middle over here. So that's all we have for the GUI programming for the keyboard as for now. Thank you.